Ambassador Krelvax of the Terranian Supremacy stood before the United Galactic Council, his four eyes burning with righteous fury. His species had ruled 17 star systems for millennia, and their military might was legendary across known space. Today, he would deliver an ultimatum that would reshape the galaxy. The Terranian Supremacy hereby declares total war upon the human species, he announced, his voice amplified across 10,000 worlds. For 3,000 years, we have honored the Treaty of Proxima. For 3,000 years, humanity has been confined to their quarantine zone. But they have violated the sacred terms. They have sent probes beyond the barrier. They have attempted communication. This aggression will not stand. The council chamber fell silent. Delegates from 100 species exchanged worried glances. War hadn't touched the galaxy in 3 millennia, not since humanity had been discovered and promptly isolated behind an impenetrable energy barrier that surrounded their entire solar system. The humans had been deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable, and the galaxy had breathed easier knowing they were contained. Chairman Velmoth, a crystalline being whose species had brokered the original peace, leaned forward. Ambassador Krelvax, are you certain? The records from the First Contact War are disturbing. Perhaps negotiation. There will be no negotiation. Krelvax roared. We will breach their barrier, we will invade their system, and we will remind them why they were imprisoned in the first place. The Terranian War Fleet launches at dawn. What Krelvax didn't know, what none of the younger species knew, was that the barrier hadn't been built to keep humans in. It had been built to keep everyone else out. The message reached Earth 14 hours later. Every screen on the planet displayed Krelvax's declaration simultaneously. In living rooms, offices, and public squares, humans watched the pompous alien deliver his threats. And then, collectively, humanity did something the galaxy hadn't heard in 3,000 years. They laughed. In Tokyo, office workers doubled over in their chairs, tears streaming down their faces. In New York, people gathered in Times Square pointed at the screens and howled with mirth. In Mumbai, children giggled and mimicked Krelvax's dramatic gestures. Even in the Grand Assembly Hall in Geneva, where Earth's unified government convened, Prime Minister Okafor had to pause the emergency session because her cabinet couldn't stop chuckling. They actually think the barrier was to contain us? Defense Minister Zhang wheezed, wiping his eyes. After all this time? Okafor composed herself, though a smile still played at her lips. Apparently, the galaxy has a short memory. How long until their fleet reaches the barrier? 72 hours, ma'am, Admiral Petrov replied, his withered face splitting into a grin. Should we prepare the welcoming committee? Oh, I think that won't be necessary, Okafor said, pressing a button on her desk. But we should probably warn them. It's only polite. Across human space, people went about their lives with unusual cheer. The declaration of war had become the most popular comedy material in centuries. Late-night hosts had a field day. Memes flooded the networks. Children played games where they pretended to be terrified of the scary aliens before collapsing in giggles. But in the deep archives beneath the Himalayas, in a vault that hadn't been opened in 3 millennia, something stirred. Dr. Sarah Chen, chief historian of pre-barrier Earth, stood before a massive sealed door alongside a military escort. Are you sure you want to see this? She asked the young soldiers accompanying her. The real history? Lieutenant Morrison nodded, his earlier amusement fading. My grandfather was on the selection committee. Before he died, he told me we weren't always peaceful. Chen's expression grew somber as she input the ancient codes. Peaceful? Lieutenant, we were never peaceful. We were just contained. The door hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with holographic displays. 3,000 years ago, humanity had just achieved faster-than-light travel. We burst into the galaxy like a supernova, curious, aggressive, and completely insane by galactic standards. The displays activated, showing scenes from the First Contact War. Morrison's face went pale. Ships tearing through space with reckless abandon. Human soldiers laughing as they charged into impossible odds. Entire fleets using tactics that defied every rule of civilized warfare, ramming maneuvers, suicide runs, weapons that other species considered too horrific to deploy. We won every battle, Chen continued quietly. Not because we were stronger or more advanced, but because we didn't fight like them. They had rules, honor codes, predictable strategies. We had jazz. Jazz? Morrison asked, confused. Improvisation. Chaos. The ability to make beautiful violence out of pure disorder. The galaxy realized something terrifying. Humans didn't just accept chaos, we thrived in it. We turned it into art. She gestured to another display showing a human commander grinning wildly as his ship, engulfed in flames, rammed into a dreadnought twice its size. So they came to us with a deal. They'd build the barrier, give us our system, leave us alone. In exchange, we'd stay put and let the galaxy forget how dangerous we really were. And we agreed? Chen smiled sadly. We were tired, Lieutenant. 300 years of expansion had exhausted us. We'd seen what we were capable of, and it scared even us. So yes, we agreed. We told ourselves it was for everyone's safety. And for 3,000 years, we've been peaceful. We've had time to grow, to evolve, to become better. So why are we laughing at Krelvax? Because, Chen said, her eyes twinkling with dark amusement, we haven't forgotten what we were. We've just been polite enough not to remind them. The Turanian war fleet arrived at the barrier exactly on schedule, 1,000 warships arranged in perfect battle formation. Krelvax stood on his flightship's bridge, watching as his engineers prepared to breach the ancient energy wall. This will be swift, he declared to his officers. The humans are soft, weakened by millennia of isolation. They have no recent combat experience, no hardened warriors. This will be a glorious. The barrier didn't fall. It dissolved. Like morning mist touched by sunlight, the massive energy wall that had encircled the solar system for 3,000 years simply faded away. Krelvax stared in confusion. Had his engineers succeeded so easily? But they were shaking their heads, instruments showing they'd done nothing. Then the laughter began. It came through every communication channel simultaneously, millions of human voices, young and old, laughing with genuine delight. Not mocking laughter, but the joyful sound of people sharing an excellent joke. Hello, Turanian supremacy, a cheerful female voice announced. Prime Minister Okafor appeared on every screen in the Turanian fleet. We got your declaration of war. Thanks for that, we haven't had a good laugh in centuries. We've decided to be sporting about this. The barrier's down. Come on in. We'll even give you a head start. Krelvax's mandibles clicked in confusion. This is a trick. No trick, Okafor assured him, still smiling. We're just remembering something we'd almost forgotten. You see, 3,000 years ago, your ancestors built that barrier and convinced us it was for our own good. They were very persuasive. Very kind. Very wise. Her smile grew sharper. They lied. The view behind Okafor shifted, showing Earth not the serene blue marble of tourist broadcasts, but a planet bristling with cities that seemed to pulse with barely contained energy. Ships began emerging from concealed positions throughout the solar system. Not the sleek, civilized vessels of galactic society, but aggressive, angular craft that looked like they'd been designed by predators. The barrier wasn't built to contain us, Okafor continued. It was built to protect you. And we, being young and stupid, believed you when you said we needed to be locked away for everyone's safety. But Ambassador Krelvax, you've just declared war on a species that spent 3,000 years thinking about what we'd do if we ever got out. Krelvax's four eyes widened in horror as sensor data flooded his screens. Those human ships weren't moving in formation, they were swarming like a pack of hunting animals. Their weapon signatures were chaotic, unpredictable. Their pilots were flying patterns that should have been suicidal but somehow worked. And through it all, that laughter continued. We tried peace, Okafor said, her expression almost apologetic. We really did. We convinced ourselves you were right to fear us. But you know what we've learned in 3,000 years? She leaned closer to the camera, her eyes gleaming. We learned that peace is a choice we make, not a weakness we suffer. And you just made us choose differently. The human fleet opened fire, and the Turanian supremacy learned why their ancestors had been so terrified. Humans didn't fight like civilized species. They fought like the universe itself, chaotic, creative, and absolutely unstoppable. As his flagship's shields collapsed under an assault pattern that made no tactical sense but somehow worked perfectly, Krelvax understood his final mistake. The galaxy hadn't ended war 3,000 years ago. They'd just put humanity in timeout. And now, timeout was over. The last thing he heard before his ship disintegrated was that terrible, joyful laughter, the sound of apex predators remembering what they were born to do.